Ever wonder what your Dungeons & Dragons stats might be? GameMasters here, and for years we'd sit around the table just shooting crap, yapping about nothing. But many times the conversation turns to, if you were a D&D character, what would your actual real-world stats be? We never really had a method to determine them accurately, but it turns out that in Dragon Magazine, going all the way back to 1976, issue 8, even they had many questions asking for some kind of method to determine those scores. Brian Bloom wrote an article, "So You Want Realism in D&D?" It was a little tongue-in-cheek, humorous actually, but this is how he presented the stats. For strength, you would go to a gym and do military presses. This is when you take a barbell and lift it straight over your head. The military aspect is when you stand with your feet together as if you were standing at attention in the military. It works your arms, upper back, shoulders, but also because you're standing at attention pose, it will work your lower back, abs, and other balancing and stabilizing muscles. You'll want to press as much weight as you possibly can and then divide that number of pounds that you've lifted by 10. This would be your strength score. So if you could lift 170 pounds, your strength would be 17. For intelligence, you would take an IQ test and divide that score by 10. This would give you your intelligence score. Mine would probably be a 2. In determining wisdom, and he got funny with this one, you calculate the total number of hours you spend playing Dungeons & Dragons and working on your campaign or character in an average week, and subtract that total number from 20, and that would yield your wisdom score. For example, I probably spend, close to 30 hours a week consumed with D&D, working on my game, working on my campaign, and on these videos. So if I take 30, subtract 20, my wisdom score would be 10. I don't know, that seems awfully low to me. For dexterity, you would hit up your local track and run 440 yards, timing it. You then would take your time and subtract it from 80, and the result is your dexterity score. Constitution, and this one's kind of funny too. Okay, look back at the number of consecutive months that you've gone without missing a day of work or school due to illness. The number of months is equal to your Constitution score. To determine charisma, you would count up the number of times that you've appeared on TV or have had your photo printed in the newspaper. You'd then multiply that number by 2, and the result is your charisma score. Obviously, these methods don't take into account finer things like nimble fingers for dexterity. I mean, simply running 440 yards fast can certainly determine stamina, but it won't really provide an accurate depiction of how effectively I can pick a lock or dodge a swing from an enemy's weapon. I will say, however, that if you're enjoying this video and want to give it a thumbs up, that will almost certainly add +1 to your dexterity score. Likewise, using some of these methods we just talked about, some of the scores can easily go above 18. Still, it is entertaining to see that even back in 1976, folks were asking the same questions that we're asking today. What other methods have you guys come up with in determining what your real-world Dungeons & Dragons stats might be? Possibly a swimming to determine strength or dexterity. Maybe take your ACT score and divide it by 2 to get your intelligence. Yeah, maybe not. I don't think mine would be very high. Let me know what you guys can come up with down in the comments. And until next our paths cross, may your real world stats all be 18 or higher.